we can do, I would love to have a commission of small business owners so that we could sit down with you and find out from you what you need so that when I'm on council, I can represent you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Great job. Thank you. I appreciate that. Next, we welcome our next candidate, Stephen Cesares. Hello. I'm going to hand you this. Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks. By the way, apologies, I had to use the restroom.
Oh, you're fine. Good work. Okay, so the format for today is you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself, followed by 4 minutes for each question. If you have at least 45 seconds or more, by the end of those questions, you may choose to draw another card and be asked a third question. There is, any commentary about other candidates is out of order.
Sure.
Are you ready to begin?
Yeah, and make sure, in case I don't mean it maliciously,
You'll have a timekeeper, Karen Whitehurst, who's over here, and she'll give you card cues with a stop for a hard stop.
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. All right, go ahead and introduce yourself. Thank you for coming.
Hello, good morning. I hope everyone's been having a good month, and happy belated Memorial Day. I'm Major Steve Caceres. I am a commissioned intelligence officer in the Army of the United States. I moved here in October of 1998. I'm a member of the first graduating class at Notre Dame Prep. I'm also a West Point graduate. I had the unique opportunity to represent our congressional district. And before I go any further, every question aside, I mean from the bottom of my heart, thank you for entrusting me with the commission to lead your soldiers in combat. It genuinely means a lot to me to entrust a young 22-year-old to lead both under fire in Afghanistan, to lead your cadets at West Point as a teacher, and to lead stateside and garrison. So I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for allowing me a commission as an officer.
Thank you for your service.
Thanks for your federal tax dollars. I didn't spend it in one place.
Thank you so much. A great introduction. I'm going to have you pick your first card for your very first question when you're ready.
Cool.
Question
Number
6.
6. Did I just put this here?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. Okay, question 6. Small businesses are the lifeblood of our community. As more and more larger companies, headquarters, and development come to Scottsdale, what do you believe the city can do to continue to support and grow small businesses in Scottsdale?
Do I need to talk into the mic because my voice carries?
Your voice does carry, but this is really for the live stream. Sorry, you
Okay,
guys.
understood. Okay, so when it comes to terms with small businesses, this is something that's kind of personal to me as well, because when my mother left the Army as an officer as well, and when we moved here in '98, she started her own flower business here. Does anyone remember Flora Europa? So I see some heads shaking. That's cool. So I have a personal affinity for small businesses. And it's interesting because in terms of small businesses, that includes anything from candy shop. I know there's a bakery around there. And we have a unique advantage economically along 3 lines. I encourage everyone, if you get really bored later on this week, look at the North American Industry Classification System. It's called NASIX. And it's a code which shows where a city has a competitive advantage. And we have a competitive advantage in 3 areas. Art galleries, 5-to-1. We have a competitive advantage in corporate headquarters. It's approximately 3 or maybe 2.5-to-1. Someone needs to fact check me on that. And then the third area is tourism. It's almost 4-to-1. So any way to retain and incentivize businesses, that's what needs to be done so we can hold those 3.
Okay, wonderful. Would you like to draw another card?
I would love to. Let's see if this is a lucky 7.
Question 7. Water has been a question mark for visitors and residents for years. With recent national news concerning Rio Verde, the proposed hockey arena, and the city of Scottsdale, what is your plan for water management and control for the city of Scottsdale as we grow?
Cool. May we hit component number 1?
Yes. So Do you want to comment on the national news concerning Rio Verde, the proposed hockey arena, and the city of Scottsdale's plan for water management?
So at 148th and Rio Verde, I think it's a good case study. I think it was the best item that could have been made by members of council and by stakeholders. I candidly admit I don't know the tonnage. I don't know about the pipelines. I do not know that. I need to educate myself on that more. However, I'm of the firm belief, I'm not basing this off empirical data or evidence, but I think we got 5 to 6 years at the pace of development that we have right now before we have to start contracting in significant amounts of water to sustain development. I'll make it more broad. I know we're talking Scottsdale, but I want to give an example. So let's look at South Asia. It comes down to life cycle management, and it comes down to infrastructure and good judgment. 29 of the 43 megacities in the world are all located in South Asia. Right, and a megacity is defined as anything that's over 10 million persons, okay? So right now, Karachi is a good case study. It's a city of over 10 million, it's probably closer to 12, I believe. And they're already importing water, significant amounts. And citizens are only allowed to draw maybe twice a week. I think it's on Tuesday and Thursday in alignment with the Islamic calendar. I'm not saying that we're going to be a city of 10 million people. We're a city of 255,000, but that's something just to consider. I think within 5 to 6 years, unless development is more constrained, then I think we're going to have to start importing water. And that's my perspective.
We do have time for one more question if you'd like to draw another card.
Sure. Actually, you draw it.
Okay.
You call it.
Here we go. Question 2. Short-term rentals have been a hot button topic in Scottsdale for a long time. What is your stance on short-term rentals, and what would you propose to do differently if elected, if anything?
Short-term rentals. So I candidly admit when I came home in July after finishing teaching at West Point, I didn't know anything about short-term rentals because my parents live here, so that wasn't kind of like a thing. So when someone said STR, I'm like, is that an Army acronym that I missed? Like, I have no idea. But in all seriousness, so short-term rentals, we're dealing with 5 components. You're dealing with a constitutional right to run a business out of your home and to engage with business. And I firmly believe in that. However, you also deal with zoning. You're talking about ordinances. You're talking about decibel levels. You're talking about the science. And it's the intersectionality of those which makes it a very complex and tricky issue. For me, fundamentally, I believe people should have a right to engage in any business, but I don't know how many individuals here have lived here for decades or a long time, but when it comes to short-term rentals, when someone purchased a home somewhere, down south, or I live in Greyhawk, so when someone purchased a short-term rental there, I don't think they had any anticipation that individuals would come and have drag races or other illicit activities. Okay, so that's important to know. My perspective. So recently, I believe it was I have my notes here if I could pull them up, but I believe the recent 2 ordinances adopted by members of council, that was a step in the right direction. It is a step in the right direction. But ultimately what it comes down to are, for lack of better terms, impolite visitors who are coming into town and abusing the system. I believe people who moved here did not anticipate that it would aggregate and that Airbnb, VRBO, and all the other short-term rental companies would grow as fast as they did. So what it only comes down to is visitors being respectful, looking at changing potentially decibel levels. I'm not a scientist, I'm just a geeky intel officer, but from what I understand, about 55 would be an appropriate limit, and I think we're at 60 right now. So what I would do, or what I would propose and work in coordination with, look at decibel levels, look at zoning, and just be a good neighbor and say, hey, if anything comes up, call me right away.
Thank you so much for your time and your participation today.
Thank you for your kindness.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good job. Our next candidate will be Mason Gates. Mason, thank you for joining us today. In this cup in front of you, we have 8 cards for 8 questions that you previously received that you're going to draw yourself in a minute. You have 2 minutes for an introduction and then 4 minutes per question. If you have at least 45 seconds at the end of your 2 questions, you can get another question if you choose to. The only thing that is out of order is commentary on other candidates. Are you ready to begin?
I am.
Okay, Mason Gates, please introduce yourself.
Hi there, everyone. My name is this working? Sorry.
Yeah, you weren't going to hear yourself, but it is for the live
Okay,
stream. So
cool.
if you can hold it up, that'd be great.
I'm originally from Kansas City. I grew up in a family of 8, so I have 5 siblings, 2 parents, obviously. I moved out to Arizona about 3 years ago to attend Arizona State University. I did a year there. I was a part of the ROTC program. Phi Gamma Delta was the fraternity I was also a part of, and I majored in finance. At that point, I had received the offer to do a job that I pretty much was looking to pursue after college, so I went ahead and just did it. I am currently a commercial real estate broker. That being said, none of the brokerage that I do is in the state of Arizona. It's all in Nebraska, Montana, Wyoming, and the Dakotas, so I really have no vested interest in the state because obviously overdevelopment is a big issue in Scottsdale right now. Outside of that, I'm also the marketing director for a hospitality conglomerate that's nationwide, and I'm running for office. I started 3 businesses before I was 18, chaired a nonprofit in Kansas City that is dedicated to homeless outreach, and was the president of the Young Entrepreneurs Society of Kansas City. I'm also an alumni of the Boys State program, which is an American Legion program, and it's one of the most selective educational programs in the country for government. So,
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And now we're going to begin our Q&A forum. Go ahead and draw your first card. Question 7. Water has been a question mark for visitors and residents for years, with recent national news concerning Rio Verde, the proposed hockey arena, and the city of Scottsdale. What is your plan for water management and control for the city of Scottsdale as we grow?
yeah, so I think we have one of the best, water treatment plants. One of the best. We have state-of-the-art facilities in our city, thank God. So I'm very pleased to say that. I think the most important thing is, we need to make sure that we're protecting our sovereignty as a municipality. And we also need to make sure that the legislature isn't trampling on our rights and telling us how to govern. I am running for Scottsdale City Council, not Phoenix City Council, not Tempe City Council. So I'm dedicated and committed to, preserving sustainability in terms of water for our residents and not other residents. As for anything else, I would say the best way to really mitigate this problem is to focus on, limiting development in terms of, high density housing. There's a common misnomer that's going around that, on a per square foot basis, apartments use less water. That is true. But when you look at an acre of land, the question is, how many single family residences could you put there versus how many apartments could you put there? And when you do the math, you crunch the numbers, depending on how many stories, long run, you're probably going to end up using more water with a high-density housing, upzoning. So I'm definitely going to be standing pretty firm against, upzoning requests that do encourage more development of high-density housing. I don't think it's conducive to the character of Scottsdale.
Thank you very much. Go ahead and draw a card for your second question. Question 4. Road diets have been a controversial subject in Scottsdale recently. Please explain your take on road diets and how you plan to handle road diets if elected to City Council.
Yeah, so this is an interesting agenda that's being pushed. I don't know really why. So first of all, I live off of 68th and Thomas, which, as most of you know, they just dieted the road on 68th Street between, I believe, is Indian School and Thomas. And so I take issue with it in the sense that I like to think I'm a big numbers guy. So I look at everything in terms of logic and whether it makes sense on a utility basis. And so if you look at a road diet and you look at the utility of a bike lane, it's actually 1% of the population that uses them. And it's used for 7 months out of the year, especially in a city like Scottsdale in the state of Arizona, for example, where it gets really hot. I'm sure many of you, after you leave here, are going to be sweating. So That's just how it is. And I think in terms of utility, we have to look at it as a cost-benefit analysis of do we reduce the traffic lanes that we have in the city and sacrifice it for bike lanes? In my opinion, I don't think we do, especially when you look at the national numbers, which 76% of commuters travel by auto. 70% of the people who work in Scottsdale don't live here, which means that most of them probably need to travel by car and not by bike. The other thing I would say with regards to that is the vast majority of bike accidents actually occur in an intersection, not in the road itself. So because of that, I don't know as though bike lanes would really do what they're intended to do, which is to increase safety. I'll also say Scottsdale geographically, 31 miles long. We have over, I believe it's 30 trails, bike trails in this city. You can't drive a mile without finding one. So because of that, I would stand pretty firmly against further road dieting. And I think it's also just more of a long-term agenda to really make the populace more dependent on public transport. And I don't think it's really, fitting the intended purpose of it. So.
Thank you very much. Would you like to choose one more card for your last question? You have 2 minutes remaining.
3.
Question 3. There seems to have been an uptick in crime in Scottsdale recently, from tourism burglaries to altercations with Scottsdale police. What is your stance on crime in Scottsdale, and what do you plan to do if elected to City Council?
Yeah, so actually, from what I understand, crime has gone down over the last few years. But that being said, it still concerns me when I hear that there are Chilean gangs that are taking advantage of visa programs to break into homes in our city. I moved to Scottsdale largely because of how safe it is. I've lived in Kansas City. I've lived in Tempe, where high crime, high homeless population, a lot of problems with public safety. And so that's one of the things I really admire about this city, and I think it's absolutely imperative that we protect that and preserve it. Right now, the Scottsdale PD is 20% understaffed. My goal would be, by the time I'm done, that the Scottsdale PD would be 20% overstaffed and 20% overpaid, because I would much rather have public safety and peace of mind than road diets, that's for sure. But overall, I would say, we need to start focusing on the issue as a whole. I mean, I've heard stories from residents where there's, a helicopter circling their house. In English, they're saying, stay in your homes. And in Spanish, they're saying, come out with your hands up. This is Scottsdale. This is South Central LA, right? So I think we have to really protect and preserve the thing that keeps us different from cities like Tempe and cities like Phoenix, because we are a safe city, and that's what makes us a destination. It's also important to remember 25% of our budget comes from tourism. So if we continue to have, crimes that make national news, like Chilean gangs breaking into homes, it's going to make tourists less inclined to come to a city like this. So we need to really focus on that. The same thing goes with homelessness. So I know the bridge housing program is a big topic of discussion right now. That's something I don't support. I think we're confusing enablement for compassion. And so we need to really do away with that and actually focus on the real issue, which is, allowing people to take responsibility for their actions and offering them accessibility to mental health. And I think that would solve a lot of the issues and continue to allow us to be a destination for tourists across the world.
Thank you so much, Mason Gates, for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Our next candidate is Justin Leos. Hi, Justin. Go ahead and get cozy. I'll have you hold this.
Okay.
It won't make any noise, but we're going to hold it up because it's for the live stream, really.
Okay.
Okay, let me explain the format. 2 minutes for your introduction. Karen Whitehurst is going to give you cards for your timer with a red hard stop time when your time is up. You'll have 4 minutes per question, and if you answer them in a more efficient manner, and you have at least 45 seconds left, we may be able to get to another question if you choose. The only commentary that's out of order is commentary about other candidates.
Okay.
Are you ready to begin?
Yes.
Thank you so much, and please introduce yourself.
So I'm Justin Laus, running for Scottsdale City Council. So I'm a sixth-generation Arizonan. I work as a software engineer. Some other things I'm involved in is I used to serve on the city's Board of Adjustments, involved in my local Rotary Club, and also volunteered for Big Brothers Big Sisters. So decided to run because I want to bring a reasonable, not radical approach to city council. I think one thing that made Scottsdale always Really fortunate. It's always had very nonpartisan, friendly approach to the way that we do politics here. We focus on issues, we focus on solutions, and I want to make sure that we're continuing that so that we're continuing to be the Scottsdale we all know and love, and we're growing into the future.
Wonderful. Are you ready for your first question?
Yeah, let's do it.
Time out. Let me make sure this is a fair shake.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead, pick your poison.
Okay.
What number did you get?
7.
Question 7. Water has been a question mark for visitors and residents for years. With recent national news concerning Rio Verde, the proposed hockey arena, and the city of Scottsdale, what is your plan for water management and control for the city of Scottsdale as we grow?
Yeah, so one thing I would love to point out that we do have water here, and I think it's important that we do acknowledge the water that we do have, the resources that we have. Right now we have guaranteed for 100 years of our water supply. We look back to in 1950 and we're actually using less water than we were back then. So clearly the measures that we're taking to conserve water, to be thoughtful about it, and also the negotiations we're having to get new water sources are working. And it's important to point that out because we don't want people to be scared about our water supply. We don't want to be fear-mongering. We don't want people worried when they don't have to be. But it is our job as elected officials to be looking ahead, to be thinking beyond, and making sure that we always are going to have the water that we need for the growth that we are going to have and the growth that we are expecting. We can't let water concerns constrict our growth, constrict the progress we're making here in Scottsdale and in our state. So to address that, I think water conservation is a good thing that we're doing, finding ways where we could be as resourceful as possible. The other thing is making sure we're just negotiating and working with state level leaders so that when we're going to the renegotiation for the Colorado River, we're making sure we're getting the allocations we need. We're doing the investments we need to get water from Sia Cortez. And another thing I'd love to point out too is Scottsdale's doing a great job in saving water. We have water reservoirs that we're adding to every year. Just recently we decided to actually sell some of our water supplies we have so much to Tucson. So to anyone worried about water, if worst case comes to worst, we can always just take back what we're given to Tucson. So on the city council, something I'll make sure we're doing is that we always have the water for the projects coming up. We're looking far ahead into the future, but I'm definitely going to make sure we're not scaring anybody and telling them a lie so that they're out there stressing about something that we'll make sure we're taking care of.
Wonderful. Are you ready for your next question?
Yes.
Go ahead and draw.
Hopefully that one wasn't too fast. So.
You're fine.
Number 3.
Okay, question 3. There seems to have been an uptick in crime in Scottsdale recently, from tourism burglaries to altercations with Scottsdale police. What is your stance on crime in Scottsdale, and what do you plan to do if elected to city council?
Yeah, I'd like to say very loud, I'm against crime in Scottsdale, not for it. And I think I would love to give praise to Scottsdale's police department. At least the numbers I've seen, we're actually on a downtick of crime. We have less crime than we have in the past 5-10 years. And again, that's a testament to the leadership, to our police department. But I will say we do have challenges coming up in the future. To me, the biggest challenge that we're going to have is hiring and retaining cops and just anyone that works in our police department. We're going to have a lot of retirees soon. And really that just comes down to the budget. I think a lot of our, the other candidates will acknowledge we need to be funding our police departments. We need to be making sure we're able to hire good new talent. The issue is how do we do that? And it's not always a money thing. And I think this is a little bit of a tangent when it comes to safety, is that we want cops that live in our community. Our community is very expensive. And so we can always pay them more, and I think we should always pay them more. We could always make sure we're incentivizing them with good pensions. But the other thing we have to think about is that if there's not good places for our cops to live, for our firemen to live, or fire people to live, and other administrators that work in those departments, they're just going to simply not choose to work here. I remember talking to somebody who was looking to go into becoming an officer, and they lived in Chandler. And I said, well, would you ever want to come work up in Scottsdale? And they said, yeah, I mean, if it paid a little bit more, I might. But to be honest, I wouldn't want to drive, and I would rather serve the community I work in or the community I live in. So it's another thing to really think about is, are we actually going to provide an environment to where those serving our community can actually be a part of the community? And on top of just paying them well and treating them well and supporting them, those are other things we have to think about. Yeah.
Perfect. Would you like one more question?
Yeah, let's do it.
Go ahead and draw. You have 2 minutes.
Oh, great. One.
Question 1. Development is possibly the biggest question on the minds of residents. Please discuss your thoughts on and your plans to approach new development in the city of Scottsdale. Please touch on commercial projects, such as the park project, as well as residential projects.
Yeah, so kind of in line with what I said recently, I know there's a lot of concern with development. There's a lot of concern with Scottsdale changing, the character changing. And to me, the job of city council is to make sure that projects are keeping in line with what Scottsdale's character is. The projects that make Scottsdale a great place to live. We have great amenities. We have great restaurants, great hotels. And so to me, the city council is not a place to kill development, to stop new things coming in that make us enjoy the city we live in. It's to ensure that they're good quality projects. And so my platform for development is it's always quality, common sense, and ownership. So I want to make sure that we're pushing that there's new ownership projects, condos or housing, so we can alleviate some of the demand that's on apartments without having to build new apartments. So apartment prices have gone up, and I think we could lower those without having to build new ones by offering new ownership opportunities and getting people more invested into the community here. And then I think other things that come up, like we have not too much land to actually do new development on. So redevelopment is going to be a big thing. So making sure we're taking older pieces of land, older buildings, making them into newer things that provide more quality. A quick tangent I would go on to is I went to a restaurant last night. It's called Oliver's, right on Hayden and Osborne, I believe. And it was an old building, and they went in, they reinvested into it, and they made it into a wonderful looking restaurant. Really tasty. I recommend the steak. And I think that's a great project of good new development that enriches the community and makes everyone's lives better. And I think that's what our focus should be. It shouldn't be on making this harder for those wanting to invest in our community.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your participation in the forum today.
Yeah. All right, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
We are down to our last candidate, Robert Bob Lettieri. Hi, Bob. Come on over, get cozy. You're not going to hear your voice project.
Somebody just mentioned they saved the best for last. Is that the true?
I guess we'll have to see.
All right.
Come on in. Okay, so let me explain the forum to you. You're going to have 2 minutes just to introduce yourself, and followed by questions of 4-minute commentary. If you reduce your time for questions, you could be asked a third question if you choose to. Your questions will be randomly drawn by yourself out of this for the 8 questions we'll propose to you. The only out-of-order comments are commentary about other candidates. Are you ready to proceed? Bob, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Bob Lettieri. I'm running for Scottsdale City Council. I came to Arizona in 1979. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I was recruited out of St. John's by Deloitte, and after 4 tedious years, I got recruited out of Deloitte by Revlon, and I was in my dream job as a New Yorker overlooking Central Park when they asked me to come out to Arizona and take a look at this huge facility that they just built over in Buckeye and 43rd Avenue. So I fell in love with Arizona, moved out here in 1979. Even though I had a graduate degree from NYU, I went to ASU to get a master's degree in finance. So right now, I function as a fractional CFO. That's for small to mid-sized companies that don't need a full-time CFO, and it keeps me really busy. One of our clients are walking distance from here, an emerging company that Samsung gave light to and ready to explode and employ a lot of people in Scottsdale. I have 3 sons. 2 of them are military, and one of them is a substance abuse counselor here in Arizona. So that's my background, and that's who I am.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. This will only do for the live stream, but can you guys hear him okay? A little bit? Okay, a little louder.
Okay.
All right, go ahead and draw your first card for your first question. Awesome. Question 1. Development is possibly the biggest question on the minds of residents. Please discuss your thoughts on and your plans to approach new development in the city of Scottsdale. Please touch on commercial projects such as the park project as well as residential projects.
There's no doubt that there's density problems driven by overdevelopment. The way I see it, I would like to see developers give more thought to building smaller single-family units like townhouses and condos. They're more affordable. They don't create the density that high-rises do. They're less taxing on resources. And it gives people a sense of community when they own a piece of property or own something in our community. So I would definitely like to work with developers and get them to look at the merits of smaller single-family units as opposed to large multifamily houses. Now, when I think about the park project, the one thing that really troubles me about that is I know it's been approved by the city council, but now they're in that development, the approval process of the actual construction by phase. And there's one phase that I'm going to take a really careful look at. It's 25,000 feet of commercial property. Now, what is it really going to be used for? The fear that I would have is that there's such an abundance of office space in Scottsdale. I mean, there's so much empty office spaces. Even the building I'm in, half of it is only, and it's a beautiful building, only half of it is occupied. Well, are they going to sometime down in the future figure out that, hey, maybe we should convert the space into apartments? So I'm going to pay very careful attention to that phase. It's in 3 phases. It's 25,000 feet of commercial space. So that's kind of something I want to keep a focus on. And as far as in general, I think that I already stated the approach that I would definitely take is to encourage developers to think of the merits of smaller single-family units as opposed to high-rise multifamily.
Thank you so much. Would you like to draw another card? Thank you. Question 7. Water has been a question mark for visitors and residents for years. With recent national news concerning Rio Verde, the proposed hockey arena, and the city of Scottsdale, what is your plan for water management and control for the city of Scottsdale as we grow?
Well, there has to be a balance between water supply and population growth. And I attended a meeting where, I guess his name is Brian Biesmeyer, who's currently in charge of water for the city of Scottsdale. And I really liked, when we asked him questions like that, his approach to it. He looks at it this way. He said that we don't have enough of, or we stopped using groundwater. So he wants to drill more wells to add to the water supply. He also was talking with the Central Arizona project. You know that they lose 5% of their water through evaporation. And they're thinking about some sort of covering for the canal that that's affordable. And his view, and I really embrace it, is that we're always looking for that next drop of water. Now, certainly there's a lot that developers can also help in new development where they can use more water-efficient appliances, like the dual flush toilet and things like that. So as long as we keep on thinking about water conservation, we'll come up with new technologies and innovative, necessity is the mother of invention. And we really have to be cautious about water usage. And a lot of people are looking at it, and I'm going to be part of that conversation.
Thank you so much. You do have time for another question. 2 minutes. So would you like to draw another card?
Sure.
Question 5. Homelessness, along with panhandling, has become a bit of an issue in Scottsdale in recent years. How do you propose to address this if elected to City Council in Scottsdale? Also, address the bridge housing plan as it exists today and your insight on it.
Well, the bridge housing plan is as follows. The city is paying for rooms at Independence 47 Hotel. Now, I think that I'd like to see them do is to make sure that there's no concentration in any one of those facilities, that it's spread out. I also think that if you take a look at the money that they're spending collectively on this, that maybe they should rethink the allocation of their funds. Most of the homeless people are really mentally disabled people, and we need longer-term solutions for that. A mental health facility that gives them a place to rehabilitate and to get back to normalcy is probably where we should spending more of our money, and maybe reallocate the money that we're spending on Independence 47 to more permanent home. Now, I know that speaking with policemen and the deputy sheriff, he's convinced that 75% is the result of mental health and 25% is drug addiction. And he doesn't really see us going in the right direction. I know that I work at Phoenix Rescue Mission, and a lot of homeless people don't like to go there because of the restrictions. So we need a more permanent facility for the homeless, someplace where they can actually rehabilitate.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You're our last candidate for today. You can stay up here if you like. You can stay up here and we'll have everybody come out. Come up real quick. We'll have everybody come up, Tammy. Thank you. Great job. Maybe we can get a quick photo. Come on up. Can we get a photo with everybody? He's here.
But don't mention your favorite candy or apple or milk card. I didn't think about
Lisa Gates, are you here?